Recently, Haikyuu Season 4 has wrapped up, ending arguably my favorite match of the series so far, Karasuno versus Inarizaki. And with it ending on such a positive note, and of course adding in the factor of recency bias, I had to wonder, is this my favorite season of Haikyuu so far? And for now, I think the answer is no. I think I still prefer Season 3 as a whole more, but in terms of sheer moments, Season 4 is the best, and it's not even close for me. There is a lot that goes into why I love this season so much, but considering that I'd have to rant for like 2 hours to go through everything, and nobody wants to hear that. Plus, I don't really want to edit a 2-hour-long video. Ugh. I've decided to instead focus on the primary reason for my enjoyment, that being the development for both Kageyama and Hinata. Because I feel like the entirety of this anime so far has built to this season for these two characters, and it shows. But unfortunately, I can't really go any further without obviously spoiling Season 4, so if you haven't seen Haikyuu, first off, what are you doing? Second, go ahead and use this video as a time skip arc for yourself. Go ahead, put your straw hat on the rock, train, get your hockey game up a little bit, watch Haikyuu, then come back and watch this video. Alright, with all that out of the way, let's get started. The season starts off pretty regular with the team getting their heights taken and their jumps measured, all until Takeda walks in on practice and informs everyone that Kageyama has been invited to an all-Japan youth training camp, a camp for Japan's best volleyball players under 19, a place where scouts for Japan's world team look for players, and a place that Wakatoshi himself went to. And we know firsthand how big of a deal that is. Kageyama, of course, decides to go and train with all of Japan's finest, and it's here where he runs into Miya Atsumu, the setter for Inarizaki. Kageyama goes through his usual routine, asking his hitters how he likes their serves as Atsumu watches on. And after the game, Atsumu calls Kageyama a goody two-shoes for it, and that's something that Kageyama doesn't really understand. At first, he was told he was being too selfish, and now he's being told that he's a goody two-shoes, so which one is it? Even when he returns to Karasuno, the help that he gets doesn't really make it clear for him either.
うちのじじいに散々言われたことだ。実際それに尽きると思うし、そこだけは迷う必要はねえよ。
What? But we can discuss his return further in a bit. First, we gotta touch on Hinata's go at training camp. When Kageyama is invited to the camp, Daichi mentions that one big thing that the scouts look into are the balance of a player's skill set. Can that player be plugged in on any team and play with anyone? That's a big thing considering that these players wouldn't be playing together as often as they would with their regular team. The question of fit doesn't really apply to Kageyama, but it absolutely does when it comes to Hinata. Outside of his freak quick with Kageyama, Hinata doesn't have any other notable qualities on the court. He's not a good player, he's a player who's only as good as his team is, which is why not once, but twice he was passed up on invites for training camps. Because Tsukishima also gets invited to a mock youth training camp. With both of his rivals moving forward, Hinata is left behind, so he decides to crash the training camp Tsukishima goes to. Something that isn't really received all too well, huh? You get it? That's a reference about volleyball. See, in volleyball, they have this thing called... But even though it isn't a good look, Hinata doesn't falter, because he needs to know what sets the best players apart from the rest. In order for him to get better, he needs a starting line. And Washijo, while not letting him play, allows him to stay at the camp as a ball boy. So Hinata stays and grabs balls, and he practices by himself after camp ends for the day, all until Wakatoshi shows up to camp and asks him the question that he didn't want to hear.
それで、お前は何をやっている?
Even with all of the work that he puts in after practice, Hinata himself felt like he was still being left behind in the back of his mind. This question that Wakatoshi poses is very similar to the one that Kageyama asked him at the start of the series, but back then it was different. Hinata didn't have a team. He could hardly practice with anyone, and he never got the chance to experience playing a game until then. He had an excuse as to why he wasn't all that good. But now he has a team that he can practice with, and he's experienced many games, and he's still lacking. He doesn't have that excuse anymore, and Hinata himself more than anyone recognizes that. This wasn't his reason as to why he came to camp. It wasn't his proper starting line. He needed to think harder and figure it out. And after some thinking, Hinata begins to transform by coming out of the closet.
I mean, what the fuck? Every time I come over here, you always gotta take me through this homosexual rigmarole, man, with your terminology, man. What the fuck is wrong with you, man?
But in all seriousness, now that Hinata is forced to watch, he can absorb all of the details that actually go into playing the game. Instead of training his body further, Hinata trains his brain with every play that he sees, every player that he talks to. Just by being there, Hinata is becoming an infinitely better player than he was before. And now with all of this knowledge that he has at his disposal, instead of just wanting to spike the ball, Hinata wants to learn how to do everything on the court due to his newfound love for the sport. Notice how it's Hinata who has his starting line while Kageyama is confused on how to progress. This all plays a role for when the boys roll back into town. Upon their return, Hinata begins to showcase what he learned almost immediately while Kageyama just has a scowl on his face. This all leads into a practice game with Datetek, a game where it's noted that Kageyama specifically is going to feel a bunch of pressure due to Datetek's blocking, but despite being placed under pressure, Kageyama begins to adapt and evolve. But even with his advancements, the team still continues to fail, and this keeps happening over and over and over until all that pressure adds up. Not only from the game, but from the training camp as well. Kageyama went to the camp to better himself and left feeling confused. Meanwhile, Tsukishima and especially Hinata made advancements, and now he's the one who's being left behind. But now he's returned and is finally beginning to make progress, but that progress is cut short by his team's failings, and he reaches his breaking point and explodes. And nobody is more horrified by this outburst than Kageyama himself. The last time he had an outburst like this, his team stopped following him. And the one thing that scares Kageyama more than anything is the idea that no one will be there for him when he puts the ball up. He tried his hardest all this time to avoid anything like that from happening again, but it all just came flooding out of him today. And at first, this is viewed as a character regression, with Tsukishima commenting on how the old tyrannical king is back. But Hinata just tells him that he can be a king if he wants to. If he just doesn't like his call, then he won't listen to him. And the rest of the team agrees. And with that, everything that was muddled becomes clear to Kageyama. He can be a king, just not a tyrannical one. Thanks to the pain that he went through before, he realizes that he can be wrong as well. He's honest about his faults and how, despite that, he wants to be the best player he can for his team, and his team accepts him for that. Once again, Kageyama is crowned king by his teammates, only this time, it's a name that he can be proud of. After advancing in the tournament, Karasuno is set to face off against Inarizaki High, the team projected to win the entire tournament this year. A team that has plenty of players to brag about, but arguably the two players who stand out the most are the Mia twins, a pair known as the best sibling duo in high school volleyball. And it's these two who serve as the wall for both Kageyama and Hinata to climb together. The game starts with a back and forth, with the first major play being Hinata and Kageyama's freak quick. Like usual, the two break through their opponent's defense with their speed and leaves everyone in awe. But unlike all of the times that they've done it, Atsumu likes it so much that he wants to try out the quick with his brother Osamu, and they actually pull it off. Not only once, but twice, and on top of that, they stopped a Karasuno freak quick shortly after. This set of plays serves as a question to both Hinata and Kageyama. Why do you deserve to stay on the court? This has been the goal for both of them since the start of the series, to be on the court longer than anyone else. And now they're up against Inarizaki, a school known as the ultimate contenders due to how their players don't get comfortable even with all of their success. With this set of plays and with who Inarizaki is, Kageyama and Hinata can't stay the same either if they want to progress. They have to prove why they deserve to stay on the court. And aside from smaller moments showing their development, like Kageyama keeping a cool head while setting, or Hinata showcasing defensive wherewithal, both of them have a set of plays that prove why they belong on the court. Kageyama goes into what Hinata calls his Kageyama the Calm mode, a form he goes into when he's super focused, enough to make it feel like the air around him is vibrating with tension. Kageyama gets multiple service aces on Inarizaki and even blocks their ace Adan one-on-one. And even when everyone else is dead tired, Kageyama is still delivering perfect sets in the clutch, making sure to give all of his hitters as many options as possible. Then Hinata is subbed into the game after Karasuno is at their lowest point, when the Miyu twins do a reverse freak quick. They start to crumble apart and are struggling to keep up with Inarizaki. And right before Inarizaki breaks their spirits completely, Hinata saves them. A play that's so simple it's stupid from an outsider's perspective, but for Haikyuu fans...
Wait, Hinata, are you gonna receive? It's in slow motion. All that work from the previous half of season 4. This receive. My boy!
Hinata? No! He's there? Oh! Oh my lord! Look at him get that! It fits perfect, it went right up!
Hinata! Yes! Nice receive!
This moment was huge, not just for us, but for Karasuno as well, and they immediately begin to transition to offense. And although they don't manage to score, Hinata's pure excitement to go back out there and keep making those plays brings everyone's spirits back up. He manages to kick the ball over the net to score a point, which is something that he wouldn't have been able to do otherwise if he hadn't become so familiar with the ball. And of course, him slowing the pace down in order for Karasuno to catch their breaths and attack properly. And that brings us to the final play of the game. It's not an impactful spike like at the end of Karasuno versus Shiratorizawa, it's a block from Kageyama and Hinata. I believe that it was this moment where Hinata and Kageyama both earned their positions on the court. Instead of being a tyrannical king or a goody two-shoes, Kageyama mixed the two together and became the serene king. He's someone who brings the best out of his hitters and forces them to elevate their game to the next level, but he doesn't rule with an iron fist. He admits when he's wrong and he takes into account the condition of his people, and he makes up for whatever they lack with his own talent. Case in point, this moment exactly. Earlier in the game, Hinata had been able to get in position to block the freak quick, but was then overpowered by Osamu. Now Kageyama is there to provide support and make up for what Hinata lacks. Hinata at the start of the season was told that he has no worth on the court without Kageyama, and now he's responsible for bringing his team back from the depths of despair and saving them in the final moments of the game. His hunger for the game has always been there, but now that hunger is contagious. It inspires his team to push further and dig deeper. These two denying this quick is them denying the image that they've built up until now, that they are more than just a freak quick and they deserve to have a spot on the court, because while speed is a powerful weapon, it's not invincible. Those two know that better than anyone else. And that, while certainly not being the only reason, is the primary reason as to why I love this season of Haikyuu. And while I'm really excited to see the Battle of the Garbage Dump, I don't like how predictable they made it out to be. Maybe y'all are just large brain and I'm gullible, but there were a lot of times in Haikyuu where I wasn't sure if Karasuno was gonna pull through. It's one of the aspects that I loved about the series, and it's what made each player's growth that much more satisfying to me. But with Hinata and Hoshiumi's confrontation on the court being built up so much, I just don't see how Nekoma is making it past Karasuno. But hey, I'm sure it's gonna be a great match, and that's all I can ask for at the end of the day. I hear that the anime for Haikyuu will be continuing next year, but I'm not all too patient, so I'm excited to pick up the manga and see where it goes from here. And who knows, if this video does well, maybe I'll discuss more Haikyuu content and discuss my journey through the manga and go over some of the upcoming matches. But since this isn't something that I post on the channel normally, I'm not expecting too much from this video. And that is a-okay, cause I had a whole lot of fun making this video, and I know if nobody else has got me, Shoyo Hinata has got me. Can I get an amen for that? We talked a lot about Haikyuu in the comments for other videos, and that meant a lot to me, so this one goes out to you, my friend. Now Shoyo, I need you to comment on this video, otherwise I'll look like a fool. If you enjoyed, please like the video, and of course subscribe if you're new. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Stay safe, bye bye. Also, Happy New Year!